Hello, I'm Graham Davis. Before starting any maintenance work, you need to unplug the power supply. This Macerator is our sunny top up model, which has got a main inlet for the WC connection at the front and a top inlet for a hand wash basin. The first manoeuvre to service the unit would be to take the lid off. We would use the large flat bladed screwdriver to ease the two clips at either end away, allowing the lid to then pull away from the main case. Then you would move and you would push the cable gland through from the back of the unit, allowing the cable to come through into the main case, and then that will allow you to lift the motor in one go, allowing you to then service and work on the motor and blade unit. Next, you would want to remove the cage to get to the blade set. Again, with a screwdriver, move the cage away from the lugs, holding it in position, and the cage will come away. At this stage, you'd want to put on your gloves to protect the hands from the sharp edges of the blade. Removal of the blade will allow us to get behind the blade if there's any foreign objects caught behind it that's causing an issue. To remove the circlip, you would push on both sides of the circlip at the same time. Holding the blade steady, you would then remove the circlip and put that in a safe place. Then using either your hands if it's loose enough, or if not, two screwdrivers just to get under the blade to release it from the spindle. Taking note that there is a drive pin in the spindle that locates into the bottom of the blade on reassembly. You are now checking underneath for any foreign object, hair, and many other items that get flushed down the toilet that shouldn't. And once they're clear, then you're ready for reassembly of the blade. For the electrics, you would need to take your screwdriver again, which will release the clip, like so, which will then allow you to remove the rubber membrane. Next, you can remove the activation grill and rod, and this is the item that pushes on the main switch inside to turn the unit on or off. Next, to get to the electrics within the pressure chamber box, use your screwdriver again just to tease open the cover plate, and then easing it away, it will then allow you to view the electrics. Here we have the capacitor, which actually turns the motor. It's an induction motor which needs a capacitor to store a charge to rotate the motor and to start the motor. Once you've got the electrics clear of the pressure chamber, please note and check that the on-off switch, which is the micro switch here, is correctly positioned and pushed back into its mounting with the two lugs of the pins holding it in a secure position. Whilst you are there, also check that any wires are in position correctly and not loose or broken or damaged, and then the unit will be ready for reassembly. To remove the lower discharge pipe where the waste is drawn in through this hole and out through this pipe. We need to remove that to check that for blockages. With both thumbs on the red clip, you can then push that away from its mount, taking note that there is a pin in the bottom of the red clip that will locate into a hole in the side of the lower discharge pipe. The lower discharge pipe is then removed from the motor, and at that point you can check and clean to make sure there are no blockages and a general upkeep of the pipe and service at that point. Moving on to the pump cover plate. For that you would normally twist and release, and on the pump cover plate you're looking for any dirt or debris within inside, and also to make sure that this hole here is clear. That hole is very important to stop any airlock caused within the pump cover plate if the waters go too low and then trap air up inside the motor unit. We then move on to the impeller. For the impeller to come free, you need to hold the other end of the spindle tightly first, normally putting the blade back on with the pin, and again being careful with the blade, like so, and then holding not the blades but actually on the plastic. You can then anti-clockwise turn the impeller, being careful not to lose the washer, and then making sure there's nothing caught or blocking or wound round the spindle itself, and make sure that's nice and clean before reassembly. To reassemble the impeller, once you've checked that all is clean inside, you would replace the washer, then making sure this is clean on the impeller, and that is just a simple right hand thread to tighten, like so, and again holding the blade safely on the plastic, just pinch and tighten up the impeller. Okay, once we're happy that the pump cover plate is clear, then we can reassemble by dropping it down onto the motor, pushing firm and then twisting clockwise and making sure it's in position. The pump cover plate is in its correct position. Just check on the lugs of the pump cover plate that line up accordingly to the motor. We now need to put the electrics back into position. To do so, we make sure that the capacitor is in place, and as we push the electrics into position, making sure that we don't catch them or cause issue, and then a simple push down into place, and we're now in position and closed for the electric chamber. We would then put in the activating rod, which is a simple push into place, and if you can hear the click, that's the micro switch acting that you know you have it in the right position. But once it is in that position, make sure not to twist or turn it when you're putting your membrane back on, which is the next maneuver. To put the membrane back on, there is a lug on the membrane, and you'll see a cutout at the side of the pressure chamber, which that would align to. The tag that's on the membrane fits into the according gap like so. It's sealed and pushed home. Next, you'd be looking to put the clip back on. To do this, and this is an important note again, on the clip there is a chamfer. That chamfer has to be facing downwards towards the bottom of the tank. Place that clip into position like so. So it's covering the membrane and the body, and then with your pliers, pinch pliers, push it together, and with a simple click the clip is then into position, making sure it's the same on the other side. To make sure this has all been reassembled correctly, press on the membrane and you'll hear the click on and off of the micro switch. If you don't hear that click on and off, then you know something is awry and you would need to disassemble to check what needs correcting. To reassemble the blade, you firstly make note that there is a pin that needs to be located into the back of the blade, which is this pin that sits through the hole of the spindle. Pushing that through halfway, lined up, then allows you to align your blade into position carefully, like so. And finally, to hold the blade into position, affix and push your circlip across. To put your lower discharge pipe back on, push it into position. You will note that there's a cutout on the side and there is a lug on the side of the motor. Push these together, locating it firmly, and then to hold into position, please use the red clip again, lining up with the hole, which is a push across and a snap into place. We'd then put the cage back onto the motor, and at this point making sure that the lugs mate and line up, and also that your cable position meets the cable entry on the back of the case, so you know that the entry of that cage is in the right position when you're putting it back into the box. You then push that down into position. Final assembly, now you've checked the motor, the blade and the pump cover plate for any blockage and the electrics. You can lift the whole unit up and place back into the lower case, making sure that the lugs line up front and back into their guides. Once you've done that, you can then feed your mains cable back through the case with the rubber grommet needing a push from inside. Like so, until it seats happily on the case, making sure that it's not tucked in, allowing any leakage. And then finally, to put the lid back on, firstly you've got an anti-vibration ring, and then finally with the lid it's easier to put the seal on firstly. So work your way around with the seal until that's home and in position, and then to put the lid on make sure that your upper discharge pipe is connecting with your lower discharge pipe, and push the lid down onto the seal, like so. At this point, you would need to put a fair bit of pressure on for the clips to snap into position either side, and to aid this you can also use a soft rubber mallet just to tap around the seal to make sure it's into place. So we're nearing the end of this presentation, and thanks for sticking with me. I hope you've learnt a few things that will help you in your future careers, but if there's anything that you're unclear about or you'd like to go a little deeper into the subject on, please visit the website or give us a call. Thanks for watching.